Hi, I'm Phil Cooke, and welcome to the Phil Cooke Podcast. Today we're talking about filmmaking. We're going to be talking to Jared Geesey, who's the Executive Vice President of International Distribution for Angel Studios. If you know Angel, you know that they produce some really remarkable projects, and they have a unusual and really unique process. And we're going to talk about it today. If you're a filmmaker, you know a filmmaker, make sure they hear this. Share this with creative people that you know, because this could be your chance to get a film made. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there, frankly, about Angel Studios. And I think we're going to clear a lot of those up. How to get a film distributed by these guys, how to get on board with Angel. It's simple to do. You can even be an Angel Guild member, and we'll explain that in the episode. So stay tuned, because I think this is going to be a remarkable interview with Jared Geesey, the Executive Vice President for International Distribution for Angel Studios. Jared, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, so this is pretty exciting for me.
Oh, man, I was thrilled to get the invitation, and it's always a joy to talk to you.
Well, Angel Studios has quite a story, but before we get into that, I want to go back and talk about you for a minute. Tell me about your career path before you joined Angel. How long have you been an Angel, by the way?
I've been an Angel about 4 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And what led you there? What were you doing beforehand? Give me the story.
Yeah. I mean, I got involved in the arts on the faith side. I mean, since forever, I've got involved with Christian music and grew up in doing Christian music. My dad was a pastor, did the music at the church. And so that was my world. And when I majored in music in college, and then felt the call to the mission field as a musician, and toured 22 countries living on a bus, met my wife in this music group, went around the world, and really gave me a heart for the global body of Christ. And that we use the arts to spread the gospel. That's what we did. So
that's great.
Really.
Well, let me interrupt you and say I'm a pastor's kid, and I can confirm that for me, playing the piano was part of the job description. So I actually started college as a piano major until I met the faculty and realized they were serious. So I got out of there pretty quick and diverted to film and television, and that completely changed the trajectory of my life. But I totally identify with your path up to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, so just using seeing the power of the arts to, I think, open people's hearts and minds to the good news, I think was, and also just, we would see a different church almost every night where we were doing these concerts, and then going overseas for 3 months at a time. Especially what I'm doing now on the international distribution side, I see the seeds of that were planted way back then. So after I got off of that, off the road, was trying to figure out what to do, and gotten to the Lord opened some doors at a tech company, and I started climbing my way the ladder up there, but it was becoming a little bit over a period of 4 years. It was like business school. The CEO took me under his wing, and I started running so many parts of the business. It was a lot, and I was starting to have kids, and one day I felt the Lord told me, your time here is done. And so now I was really feeling stuck. And I called my good friend, Bobby Downs, who was he met his wife in that same ministry. And so we had always said it'd be fun to work together. So I reached out to him, and he said, well, we're filming a movie. They're a production company for hire for 20th Century Fox, based off a Frank Peretti novel called The Visitation. And he said, that production's going to pay for my bills for the next 6 months. So you can come to Christian Cinema. I'll give you my salary there. And if you can double sales when the movie's over, you can stay.
Interesting challenge.
Yep. I would
explain, Christian Cinema was an early distribution platform that Bobby created, right?
That's right. So I jumped on.
He was kind of a pioneer.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, that started in 1999, early internet days. And so I joined him for that fund in 2004, and sales were exactly double in 6 months. And that was a total God thing. And he and I worked together for 17 years building that platform, launched the first streaming transactional platform. It started off as e-commerce, pick, pack, and ship, VHS, DVD. So I've been in the operations of direct to consumer kind of strategies for a long time. So we did that for 17 years together, and then we sold it to the Giving Company, and then now it's over at Cinedigm. So it's Christian cinema is still out in the world doing its thing, and I'm really proud for the foundation, a lot of the connections that I made in the faith film world. That's really where cut my teeth, diving into this space, learning from distribution, learning from all the films and the things that him and his brother Kevin were doing. And Kevin went off and did Kingdom Story Company, and now doing things on his own. And so it's just interesting to see all the different places that, there's so many people across this industry have crossed paths in a lot of different ways.
Well, it's interesting that Christian cinema never had the high profile of, say, PureFlix or some of these other ones, but it's always been there. It's interesting. It was a real pioneer. It's just funny, all the different technologies you mentioned, they really were kind of pioneers in those days, because it was the first company to really explore some of these things, and some others, came into play, but they've been solid for a very long time.
Yeah, we learned a lot there, and I think we made we were coming at it from the filmmaker side, which was how do we replace, DVD? We felt like from an independent filmmaking perspective, you have to have a transactional window in order to pay back these film investors. And we just didn't see the model with the way that the current subscription models at the time were set up. So we very purposely went another direction, and the market went the SVOD route.
Yes.
And so that was some early, we learned a lot. And so when the pandemic happened, we went in another direction. The platform went its way. We stayed on for a transition. And then I just was consulting and helping filmmakers try to navigate distribution challenges. I built a streaming platform during the pandemic just to help people who were trying to take things to theaters who were shut down to do these virtual streaming events.
Yeah.
And so just lots of different ventures. And so I had someone reach out to me, some friends of ours from France, that wanted to bring The Chosen to Canal Plus, one of the major television networks there. And so they said, hey, Dallas, can you bring this? I said, let me see what I can do. And now I'm consulting. So I was like, I got to try to broker a deal here and make a living, So I made some calls, and Dallas said, hey, we'll talk to Angel. They're my distributor. And so I reached out to Angel. And at the time, Angel was just was really just had done the Chosen app. We had Dry Bar Comedy, but really wasn't doing anything on the distribution side at that point. And so the conversation was, how about instead of just brokering one deal for France, how about you come help us with all of our distribution? And that really had become a passion of mine, just to help build infrastructure. That feels very missional to me, is to help build platforms for artists and filmmakers to stand on, to get their stories out there to the world. And so I immediately said, absolutely, yes, started doing that. And was involved with getting The Chosen out there. The first year or two, reached the first 100 million people with The Chosen. My team did deals in, almost 30 countries, over 100 streaming and television deals, just to help get the film and get the series out there. So that was kind of my intro and connection to Angel in the path there. Well,
it's interesting that most filmmakers just forget the whole distribution thing. They put all their money into making the movie. I can't tell you the number of filmmakers that have come to me that have made a film, but spent their budget making the film, and they have nothing left over for distribution, or how do we get it out there? How do we promote it? So that's a critical part that people forget. And the interesting thing about Angel is they really developed a whole new model. Tell me a little bit about the model, how, the Angel Guild and how it operates, and what the principle is behind the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important, the marketing and distribution, just to echo what you were just saying.
Yeah.
It's a surprise. When I talk to filmmakers, I'll say, well, congratulations, you're halfway done.
True. Sad, but true.
And so that's the important second half that they need to remember. The model that we've built at Angel, I think, is a very audience-focused model. Angel really is focused on the distribution and the marketing and the audience connection. And so what that means is we really believe in the wisdom of the crowd, and that looks like empowering audiences to vote on and choose every movie and show that we're releasing. So I always tell people, they don't like the latest movie we've put out, did you vote? If you don't like what Angel's putting out, join the guild and vote, let your voice be heard. And so we're at 2.2 million guild members now, just keeps growing every month. And so guild members, we call them members because we don't think of it just as like a streaming service or something like that. We really looking for guild members to get some really key benefits. So number one is they get to vote on every movie, every episode. If I love a movie, I can't, if the guild has not first approved it, I cannot pick it up for distribution. And there's been other titles where I'm like, I don't know if that's going to fit, but then the guild says it does, and we take it out. And so we really trust and rely on the audience and their voice. So the voting. The second is if you're a premium member, you get 2 free tickets to every Angel theatrical release. And then third, of course, you get the streaming access. So that's the core benefits of how we work with the audience. And we want to connect them directly with the artists, with the filmmakers. So my encouragement to filmmakers, the way we work is that, I get to come alongside them and just be an advocate and say, let's go to the guild together and let's see how your title is going to fit. And so as soon as you have something out of post-production, you should take it to the guild for voting and think of the Angel Guild voting process. The thing I'd love to see is for them to think of it as a post-production feedback tool that just is standard. Bigger budget projects or the studio system, they always build room for iteration. And that's one of the things that I see that doesn't happen a lot on the independent side, is that you're just barely getting to the finish line and there's no funds left for improving and editing and testing. See if you made it, or if you just confuse the audience. There's so many things that you are not anticipating. And so the audience feedback tools that we provide through the guild, we're going to give you all kinds of data, like really best in class in the industry right now. And we're charging you $250. I mean, if you went out and did this with one of those testing agencies, it's going to do you $40,000, and they'll get a focus group thing and you'll get all of this information. Yeah. But even then, it's not the best data, because a focus group's going to have one noisy person who's going to bias the whole room. Next thing you know, the whole audience is saying, "Oh yeah, what that guy thought. Yeah, that's a problem."
Yeah. True. That's why I hate brainstorming for the same reason. The loudest guy in the room may not be the smartest guy in the room, and the smartest guy in the room may be an introvert. So yeah, I totally get it.
So when you want that data testing, that feedback as a filmmaker, our system works. Everybody votes in the privacy of their own home, and you have no idea what anybody else thinks. Now, once you share your vote, then you can leave comments and engage and interact and upvote other people's comments. So we give you all of that comment data. We give you viewer retention curves, so you can see, if they're dropping off at the 3-minute mark, what's happening in your film right at that point that you need to make some changes. And we want people to improve. And because of this system, Angel has the highest audience Rotten Tomatoes score of any studio. We're averaging 93% on our releases. The next closest is Paramount with like an 83%, and it goes down from there. And it's
incredible.
We're asking audiences what they want. And
yeah, exactly.
Crazy idea, I know, but
okay. So a couple questions. Number one, anybody can become a guild member, right?
That's right. Just angel.com/guild. You can sign up. There's a couple different plans.
And you also preview a film for the guild, or, present it to the guild before it's ever made too, very often, right?
So we have what we call a torch. And so
explain the whole torch concept.
So that's for projects that are not yet fully made. And that's basically a proof of concept. It's somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes. I mean, just go shoot something. We want the audience to see, what is your story? What is the basic concept? And so that they can say, yeah, this story is good. I want to see more of this. It is not a pitch video. It's not a pitch to camera. It's not a sizzle. It doesn't have to have final cast, but it should be a narrative piece. Sometimes I've seen people write a 9 or 10 page script just for the torch and go and shoot that with some development in me. But it's a way of testing, getting data back from the audience and saying, is this story on track, or is there something that I'm not anticipating that I'm missing? So the torch is intended to help with that.
When it comes to a torch, we're not talking about a trailer. Like you say, it's not a sizzle reel or a trailer. You want to see a scene from the movie, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, some scene from the film, a section from the script. It needs to be at least 5 minutes long.
Okay.
We've all seen a trailer and then the movie's disappointed us.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
The goal of the torch is to get feedback on as smallest piece of as possible from your story. We call it a torch. It's because it's inspired by the Statue of Liberty, which was really kind of the first crowd-funded project. And so the artist Frederic Bartholdi in France first just built the torch of Lady Liberty. And then he had like a little building down at the bottom, and it was basically crowd-funded by the French people and given as a gift to America. And so, but that's the idea, is people could see the torch and could see the scale and quality of his craftsmanship and what the final thing was going to be like. And that's what they were saying. Yeah, we believe in that. I want to get behind that.
So for me as the filmmaker, I need to fund the torch, whatever that costs to do that scene, that proof of concept. And the chances are you might fund it, you may not fund it, depending on what the audience reaction is, right?
Yeah, so we focus really on bringing the distribution and marketing mechanisms, and so the funding of the torch, that's something that the filmmaker needs to do, and then if it passes, we can sign a distribution agreement, and then we can collaborate with you to solve the puzzle of how to get this thing created and funded in the world. And what's the distribution strategy? What's the right path? Is this theatrical? Is it streaming? All those questions that come in between.
Okay, just to be clear for people listening who are young filmmakers or old filmmakers or whatever, you're not in the business of funding pictures. You're in the business of providing distribution, and they can take that and secure funding from another source. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I always think of it as there's a funding puzzle that we can work with you to solve. There's a collaboration of how do we solve the funding puzzle, but Angel is not stroking checks for just funding productions.
Good to know. Good to know. And is there a particular, how many films have you guys distributed so far? Hundreds,
I think we're
right?
coming up on our 18th theatrical release, a wide theatrical release. We have a few hundred titles and episodes on the platform and the streaming library. That's both our Angel originals and projects we've worked with filmmakers to bring to the market, but it's also licensing from other third parties. So if there's, we've had great success with films that have, great films that have been created maybe 5-10 years ago, but just never found an audience.
Yeah, and that's great.
We launched them on the Angel Guild, and they've done really well. And I've had so many filmmakers call me after their first royalty check and ask me if we mistakenly added a zero. So that's been really fun to see those kinds of
that's a good problem to have. A good problem to have.
Right.
Now, after that many films, do you have an idea of, is there a certain type of thing the Guild likes more than others, genre, style? Is there anything, or is it all across the board?
I think if you look at the titles that we've put out in theaters, especially, it is a really diverse slate of genres and styles. And that's one of the things that I actually really love about the Angel Guild. A lot of times filmmakers are saying, like, what do you want? What are you looking for? And I always say, if I knew that, I wouldn't need an Angel Guild. And so we don't come at it from a mandate or other than our mission is to tell stories that amplify light. And that's based on Philippians 4:8. And so we are, so that we have that. We're not going to do a lot of horror movies or nihilistic kinds of things. We're looking for hope-filled, things that are going to put more goodness and beauty and truth into the world. That's what the Guild is looking for. But that's really, any genre can amplify light.
What about explicitly Christian? You're not necessarily looking for explicitly Christian subjects, right?
So I think sometimes we get pigeonholed as only being faith-based. And we're a values-based studio. And so, Stories that Amplify Light is a broad values-based mission. And so faith is a subset of those values. So we have very overt faith messages in films like The King of Kings and the David animated movies we've done this year. And so it's a subset of those values. We're not ashamed of faith. And we think it's normal for faith to be reflected in the story.
That's great.
The majority of humanity is having a faith journey. And so I think what's odd is Hollywood acting like we should pretend let's hide that from our stories. To me, that's the weird thing. So we think it's normal for it to be part of it. So we're not ashamed of it, but we're not pigeonholed by it. we've had titles. Last year we had a fun family like summer monster movie-ish called Sketch, where the girls' drawings come to life in this magical pond. It wasn't a faith-based movie. People involved were people of faith, but the film itself wasn't.
Right.
We just finished an amazing run with, which actually still in some theaters, with a rom-com from Kevin James called Solo Mio.
Yes, terrific movie.
Yeah, great film. It's not an evangelistic movie or something like that. We are coming up on Animal Farm based on the George Orwell book here. So we have titles that are broad or outside of that, and every one of them has been voted on and approved by the Angel Guild that says this story amplifies light.
So, but I should take my slasher movie somewhere else.
Yep, that's probably not going to be a fit.
Oh, man. Documentaries. Tell me about documentaries and your experience with those. Do the Guild members like those? Have they done well at the box office? Tell me about, because documentaries are something that traditionally have not performed well, but there seems to be a revival out there.
Yeah, I mean, docs are tough in theaters. That's just the whole market thing. It has to be really cinematic to justify why you should be there, to go to a theater to watch it. And so that's just harder to accomplish on a doc. And so we've done some docs in theaters. I don't think we have a large appetite for it. It needs to be the right project. Docs are great on streaming. And so, but I will say that for us, I would say narrative, and it just tends to even perform even on streaming.
Right. Now, when it comes to docs, one more question. If they go straight to streaming, can they do well enough to pay back the movie? I mean, does the streaming work?
Yeah. If you're trying to figure out the Angel business model and what it could look like for paybacks, I'll plug a URL here, angel.com/filmmakers. It walks through our whole model, and there's actually even a revenue slider where we look at the payouts on last quarter, and we'll publish there what a percentage. And so you can actually slide what percentage of minutes watched you might earn in a quarter and see what that would be worth to you. And so we're really happy with the payouts that we're giving to filmmakers. They're really happy too, because we're actually creating a viable model. I mean, that's been, I mentioned at Christian Cinema when we did the transactional side of things.
Right.
It was a frustrating thing for me because I could tell that when DVD and all the Christian bookstores went away, how are we going to, and just as a broader independent film in general, how do you pay back these budgets? How do you have a sustainable business model? And so we come at this very entrepreneurially in terms of our deal structures, and we want to reward the top quality films. If you can find an audience and create a timeless piece of art, we want you to earn timeless residuals. And so we don't do a one-time payout. We pay on a percentage of minutes watched. And so on that page, you can see what the latest value of a percentage of minutes watched.
Well, I have to give you credit. You're more transparent than most studios are, particularly in Hollywood. So that's something, that's a feather in your cap. That's pretty remarkable.
Over, unfortunately. But yeah, we want people to know what they can make.
And so if I'm a young filmmaker out there, an old filmmaker, whatever, anything else I need to know about Angel? What would tilt me to come and go pitch you a project or bring my project for you to look at and run it by the Guild?
I would say, I mentioned the Guild data thing. Think of, even if you aren't going to go with Angel, you should put your film through Angel for the Guild. On the data alone, you're not going to get that kind of feedback anywhere else. And I've heard people say, "Oh, I do screenings." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're present. They know you're in the room, and they're telling you what they think you want to hear."
Yeah.
And if you really have a curiosity towards, is this resonating with the audience? You just have to come to the table with that. And if you're willing to do that, and you've got a top title that's going to do well and perform well, you will earn more revenue with Angel than any other model. We reward success, and we want to win together. And when we do, we both win together big. If you're just looking for an upfront payout and move on to your next project, we're not the place for you. We reward performance and people who care about telling stories that resonate with the audience. So, and that's both on our streaming side. Then I think on the distribution side, it's important to understand just our core model is we don't charge a distribution fee. That's probably the biggest headline I could bring.
Yeah.
And we, all expenses come off the top, just hard expenses. We don't charge for media buying. We have a world-class ad agency in-house. And then, when we go theatrical, we go wide. And so we always go wide. Our average theatrical release is about 2,400 screens. And we're a big believer in the big screen. We want people to come to the theater and be a part of experiencing a movie in a communal setting with their phone, not there.
Yes.
We want them to just have that kind of experience. We think if we're going to impact culture, the theater is still the public square of our day. And so we're very bullish on theatrical. We fund the P&A and the marketing. We also, I think one of the most important things why we're so good at our marketing is, if I can brag on our marketing team, is we're very performance driven, and we sell tickets directly to 90% of US theaters. So when we, if there's an ad running, like if we have a trailer and we've run that trailer on an Instagram ad and they click through to buy a ticket, we know that converted to a ticket at a Regal in Kansas City at 2 p.m. on a Friday. And the reason that's important is just so that we can know which of our ad dollars are being wasted and which ones are not. And so we want our marketing campaign to actually get people in the theater. We're not trying to throw big parties and giant, premieres just to, waste money, but to actually say what is going to get people to watch this movie. And so by having that ticket sale mechanism, we can tell what dollars are working and which ones aren't. And so that's I think, great. Understand it.
Now, I think it's great. In fact, the evaluation service to me is, that's its own thing that's remarkable. If I had, as I was doing a project right now and I was about to finish it up, well, I may send everything I do from now on to you guys just for the evaluation, because that's a powerful $250. How do you beat that? That's a great way to figure out what people think of your project.
Yeah, it's so critical. And I think sometimes we have people who just wait. Like, I don't want to submit it until it's fully perfect. And I'm like, well, it needs to be good enough to watch, so, but when you've got a rough cut that you feel like you're starting to show friends and family, that's a good time, but do it before you run out of editing budget.
That's good. That's good. Well, Jared, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. I'm going to make sure a lot of people see this, and it's going to help a lot of people, because you guys, like I say, really the most innovative distribution model out there right now, and particularly people doing either faith-based or hopeful films. And it's a great concept. And I just am so thrilled that you're out there doing that. And I look back and think of all the films you've made in the last number of years, and that would probably never have found a screen had you not been around. So Angel is doing some great stuff out there, and I'm thrilled. Thanks for being a part of this.
Thank you, Phil. It's a real honor to come alongside these artists and bring these stories to the world.
Well, we may have you on in the future again, just to give us an update on what's going on, because you're constantly cranking stuff out. It's amazing how much of your stuff is out there. And so thank you so much for being a part of it. And we'll get the word out, because more people need to hear about what you're doing.
Thanks so much, Phil. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I have filmmakers constantly ask me about distribution options and what should I do about my film, and who should I show it to, and what about my script. And so I want to do more episodes like this to help people understand how to get your project out there. If you've got a dream project, it means a lot. I understand. I've been in this business for a long time, and it's so important to get your message out there. So stay tuned to upcoming future episodes, because we're going to continue conversations with people like Jared, just to talk about what's available, what options there are, because the world is constantly changing. The digital world has transformed everything, and how films are made, distributed. We need to stay up on top of that. And it's hard for a filmmaker these days, frankly. So just remember, everything that about Phil is at philcooke.com. I'm Cooke with an E, PHILCOOKE.com. Our company is cookemediagroup.com. So check us out and find out some of the things we're doing and what we're involved in. And, you can find my books. I've got 10 books on the site there. You can find those or go get them on Amazon, whatever is better for you. And don't forget our nonprofit, the Influence Lab. We're constantly getting invitations to come and teach and train Christians how to use media more effectively. And we're getting invitations from all over the world, and we're starting to schedule some for this coming year, and we need your support. I mean, it's so very important because there's such a hunger internationally for people to use media more effectively. It's really remarkable when you get out there and see what people are saying and get the requests that are coming in. So I'd encourage you to be a partner with us. Help us to make that happen because it's so important. And we'll see you next time on the Phil Cooke Podcast.